Good evening, good evening, good evening. This is Hanifa, and again, this is Kingswife Talk Podcast. I really want to say thank you for tuning in this evening. We're going to be going over trauma, childhood trauma, things we can do to survive the effects of childhood trauma. We'll also be going over some stories. I have a Terry who wanted to share her story and a Clark. Unfortunately, neither one of them couldn't be on with me today because I am an esthetician. I have such a long day today that I would not be able to record at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. So unfortunately, this is pre-recorded. It's about 6 a.m. in the morning, Wednesday. But just want to kind of go over, I love to do my research. Just want to kind of go over how there's 3 different types of childhood trauma stages. Basically, you have acute, which that is one single event that has happened that can affect a person from their childhood to their adulthood. Chronic. This is events that repeated and prolonged. So it's repeated and prolonged exposure. So that could be a person that's constantly raped at home or constantly exposed to not having food at home, parents on drugs, things like that. Complex. That means that exposure to multiple traumatic events, rape, hunger, drug abuse, parents incarceration, multiple things. That's exactly what that means. And when dealing with trauma, there is no way for even the best of therapists to determine the long-term effects from one person to the next. Just because a person is acute had one single event happen to them, that could mess them up and have them mentally incapable of a lot of things for the rest of their lives. And you might have someone that has the complex who's been exposed to multiple traumatic things, and they may go on to be just fine. You never know. Okay, that's one thing we can put to bed. You never know how the next person will react. Physical, sexual, or emotional abuse, physical or emotional neglect, household violence, substance abuse or mental illness, parental separation or divorce, incarceration of a family member, like I said earlier. Many people who experience these things often end up in bad situations themselves. They have anger issues, unresponsiveness, anxiety, emotional outbursts, depression, and panic attacks. Intense and ongoing emotional upset, depression symptoms, behavioral changes. Children who experience trauma, their personal development can be affected. They may develop mental health issues and have a higher risk of suicide, you guys. It's so sad. I don't know if you all have heard of the story that just happened in, I want to say Chicago, Illinois, where the 7-year-old little girl was doing her online schooling, and her 17-year-old cousin had her give him oral sex. Well, the teacher seen it and blew the whistle on that, okay? Arrested him. Come to find out, he's been sexually abusing the little girl for a while now. And I believe she had that displayed in front of the teacher and everyone else online while she was schooling, just to be able to put that out there. Very smart young lady. God bless her. That is very traumatic. We all need to keep her lifted up in prayer. That is something that I just found so sickening, and then there's a picture of him going around on social media where it's like a mug shot, and you could tell he had been crying. It's too late now. But I don't know, you guys, when it comes to hurting children, I am so against that. Not to say I would like to see it happen to an adult, but at the same time, a child is so defenseless against a predator like that. If a man tried me, an adult probably would bite his dick off. Let me just say that. And sorry for being so bold. But we're going to jump right in here. I'll start with myself dealing with childhood trauma. Mine was dealing with my parents' drug abuse. There were times I didn't have food to eat. It was times I would have to go to school just to eat. So now as an adult, my pantry, I was just looking at my pantry the other day, you guys, and I'm like, wow, because I used to be out of food, I believe that also created a eating disorder for me, which I know it did because I did have to see a psychiatrist and things like that in reference to food, because I joined a weight loss clinic and I had to go over a 500 question survey. So that was determined that I do have an eating disorder. And it would be just me basically, I don't want to starve again because I've been there and it's not fun and it doesn't feel good. But as I was saying in reference to my pantry, I have, if you look in my refrigerator, if I'm out of a ketchup, look in my pantry, I have about 2 to 3 ketchups. I have so many ranch dressings. I have just more than one of everything because of the fear of me running out. And that's one thing that going to that clinic has helping me resolve, is that it's okay. You're not that child anymore. You are an adult. You are in control now. Your parents are no longer in control. And that's one thing that I had to get to the bottom of, being able to recognize and understand that I now have control over my life. It is no longer my parents. It is me. But growing up in that type of household where the drug abuse is heavy, and me being the eldest and have to take care of my younger siblings, and it was 10 of us. It still is, thank God. But it's just that being able to have the strength and dealing with my anxiety and dealing with my childhood depression and still being able to take care of my siblings was an amazing thing. That was no one but Jesus Christ. We're going to jump right into Terry. She's from Minnesota. She dealt with sexual abuse from an uncle. He was very conniving. She said he would always take her places, and, that's how he basically warmed her up. He would take her places. He would be really kind to her. Her parents loved the fact that he would be spending time with her. And she said she went beautiful places with her uncle and had really nice times. And then one day, it just all turned. He ended up taking her back to his house. And it started when she was about 9 years old. He ended up taking her to his home, and after they had left the Minnesota State Fair, and that is when he began the sexual abuse. She said he kind of really just jumped right into it. He did not ease his way. She said she did remember, like, leading up to that, like, he would kiss her, he would hold her hand in certain ways. And she said the whole time he was prepping her for that day. And what that has done, she says, is it makes her keep a close eye on her children. She doesn't even allow her brother to take her children anywhere. She said it has really did a number on her when it comes to trust. And her main person that she doesn't trust is men. Now, Terry says she goes back and forth in between relationships with men and women because of this. She doesn't want to have men force themselves on her, because this has happened as well, where even if she is in a point where she's going to be breaking up with a person, she finds that they still feel like they should be able to have sex with her. And she doesn't think that's right. So a lot of times she says she bounces back and forth between women and men because of this issue that she has with trust. Now, if you're out there and you have family members that are really like too involved with your children, and at first you thought oh, maybe they just love my kid or, this and that. But she said she did not tell or blow the whistle. It started the abuse when she was about 9, but it took her to be about 13 when she finally said something. And what made her finally say something was that the uncle was in a car accident. And everybody was saying, oh, you should go to the hospital and see him. Oh, you should go there. And she was like, no. And that's when she finally told the family. And the family shunned him, never spoke with him again, never dealt with him again. She said he actually moved out of the state of Minnesota, but charges were never brought against him. The family just basically handled it themselves, like he was beat up, things like that. But he was never put in prison. And I believe he should have been, because it was still in the time frame, because I think the state of Minnesota has 5 years when it comes to those crimes. But Minnesota would have still found a way to get him for hurting a child. Minnesota don't play about the children. A lot of states don't. Then we're going to jump right over to Clark. His mother and his father is doing life sentences in prison. They went on a robbing bank spree, and in the process of that, killed 2 guards at the bank. They will never see the light of day, he says. And because of that, he bounced around from foster home to foster home. Nobody in his family wanted him, not even his grandmother, he says. Because of the relationship that the mother had with her family, because she chose her father, that put a strain on him having a relationship with that family. So by the time he was going even up for adoption, no one in his family came for him. He was never adopted. He spent his whole entire life until the age of 19 in either the juvenile justice system, or he said bouncing from, it became from foster home to group home to group home. A lot of group homes for boys, he said, where a lot of the people that he was being housed with were children who were trying to sexually abuse other children. He himself was never sexually abused, but he witnessed it, he's heard it, and he said that alone has had an impact on him, even right now as an adult. Right now, he is working as a mentor to young children. He's never alone with the young children. He actually goes inside of various group homes, and they do activities, things like that. And they also discuss things that they're going through right now. He said he will always love this business, and he will always have a heart for those children in need. Having a mother and father incarcerated has really changed his life. He has not seen his mother and his father in the last 10 years. When he was younger, he used to be able to be allowed to have visits with his mother and father because of their incarceration. It was kind of court ordered at first, but as he became an adult, he said the visits kind of simply faded off, so he doesn't go anymore. But how it has affected him, he takes it more in a positive way. It makes him want to be there for other people. Dealing with childhood trauma cannot be easy. Even myself, a lot of times, like I have flashbacks. I have those moments where I stop and pause. I have never really dealt with like deep depression or things like that, but I have dealt with the feelings of why did I have to have such a rough start in life? I think it actually gave me a late start in a lot of things that could have made me really successful by now. A lot of people never openly admit that. And I feel like me openly admitting that is healing as well for myself. Dealing with childhood trauma is so much. I've never had the thoughts of suicide in reference to anything that I've been through. I've never had the experience of sexual abuse. None of my mom's boyfriends or my brother's friends tried to molest me or anything like that. I'm pretty much grateful that I didn't have to go through anything like that. But there are people out there like Terry who have been through these sexual abuse experiences with family members.